respected Professor Tinku, Dr. Prasanna, Dr. Bakshi, and all other young, vibrant student, faculty members. It's my privilege to be over here. In fact, I am a learner to learn about the trade's secrets, which I would call trade secrets, in terms of the surrogacy. As a citizen of India and a Hindu, again I'm bringing a religion into it, and the Ganesh Ji Ganesh Chaturthi is being celebrated a week back. What was Ganesh Ji? How he came? Can we ponder on to it? Was it a part of surrogacy? How was he born? Now those are the issues which needs from the mantras when you can produce kids. It means there is some kind of a technology in the mantras and a similar technology which is currently in terms of fertilization, which is happening. Our saints were so powerful that with the words they could germinate. And Madam was emphasizing counseling. So when I was having a dialogue with the architect of this seminar, Dr. Anju Tyagi, I thought, being a clinical psychologist by training and left long back, entering into academia and administration, I thought it would be prudent at my end in 1990, after I left the Safdarjung Hospital. But again, it was coming to my mind that there are a lot of stakeholders which needs to be taken into consideration. We've been talking about three stakeholders at the moment. The child, which is just like a small animal who doesn't have any voice to express. We're talking about the voice of the surrogate. We're talking about the voice of the intended parent who has the money. In the whole world, we need to look at various other stakeholders. Other stakeholders are the parents, who are the grandparents, the parents of the intended mother, who wants a child in the family, so that they can spend time. They can spend time with it. They can offer the love, emotions to a child. Now, besides that, there are other stakeholders, the regulators, policymakers, because the society would like to live in peace, harmony, and tranquility. That is the basic cardinal principles of the society. We don't want any kind of tensions. We don't want any kind of imbalances. Now, the role of the doctors, role of the surrogate mothers, in terms of the financials, in terms of the marketing strategies, in terms of the commercial trades, commodifications, and the ethical issues attached with it. Now, coming on to the one of the major stakeholders, which is the surrogate mother, the absolute screening and psychological assessment and neurological assessment needs to be carried out. The main reason for not taking the child predominantly is Down syndrome, and invariably 10% of the population suffers from one or the other neurological and psychological ailments. Now, once you come to know as intended parent that the child is going to be a burden to you, let me be very humble. We as a parent leave when we find that we are not able to take care of. I am personally experiencing my own relative's case. The child were absolutely normal. The frantic ataxia case, 1 in million. Born with a healthy child up to 17 years of age. One child has done his BTech, the other child has done his BSc. Both started symptom of frantic ataxia at 17 and 15, and both of them are now 40. One is 40 and another is 37. They are at Cheshire home. they are left. Now, leaving such kind, we need to have, as she was mentioning, insurance. The third party assurance system which has come in the medical trade-off today, TPA. The government hospitals which used to be predominantly taking care of the patients today are not in that spectrum because of the coming of the commercialization of the medical industry. The whole gamut has come down to the marketing managers or the managers of the hospitals ask the doctor, sir, how much business you have got in the day? Please let me have a bottom line money. And then he is the one who's monitoring. Now, these are when the bottom line of any transactions which is happening wherein we are interested to look into here in terms of surrogacy, the contractee with reference to the contract has a undertaking that she will perform this duty and the other person says that we will perform these duties. Duties, roles, obligations needs to be clearly stipulated, but let me be very candid. 90% of our transactions are not drafted. 90% of our transactions are not drafted. There is no written contract between husband and wife that I will do this in the morning, I will do this in the evening. If that being done so precisely, there would not be taboos in the society. Now, psychologically, we need to take into consideration the various assessment tools which I mentioned. There are personality tools, there are adjustment tools, there are intelligence tools, neurocognitive batteries are there which needs to be properly carried out. Similarly, the genetic loading, because in the intended parent we are taking care of the genetic loading. Now the genetic loading, if there is a defect in the dad, in the sperms and the ova, it may also culminate having a defect in the surrogate mother and the child. Now that properly needs evaluation and screening. I hope Dr. Bakshi and the other people are taking care of those issues and concerns. Yes, regulation is necessary, but again, a constable on the road says, I am the one who's the one who has to fix what sections of the CRPC and IPC are to be put in. Now, the trial court to the Supreme Court is dependent upon the constable on the road who is defining what sections of the IPC are to be put in. Now, the Supreme Court and the Parliament may enact something, but before enactment, we need to have a proper deliberation and discussions, and any kind of social legislation requires a lot of deliberations. Unwritten contracts are many times much better than a written contract, provided the intents are properly there in both the parties. With that, thank you very much. Thanks for giving me an opportunity, ma'am. Thank you.
Having heard about the psychological aspects, let me thank Dr. Rajesh Suri for enlightening us on a different issue, different facet of surrogacy, dealing with the psychological aspects not only of the child but the surrogate also, and highlighting the fact that there is a possibility that some health concerns getting enumerated once there is this agreement of surrogacy indulged in, and the after effects and implications may not be that comfortable which would have been otherwise if there was a normal parenthood and the process of normal sexual activity would have resulted in childbirth. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Suri, on that count. As far as the proceedings of the sessions are concerned, the papers given to me reflect that there are 12 speakers. I am concerned about the fact that you would be having certain issues, certain concerns, certain questions that you would like to clarify with the panelists. But at the same time, I think there will be some of those issues which would get clarified once we happen to hear the presentations of all these 12 people who have prepared thoroughly well. Let it be interactive. May I ask for your opinion, because somewhere I am watching here that one of the audience wants certain clarifications to be done right away from the panelists. But the organizers over there are showing me the other way around, so I adopt midway. And because I am bound by the directive of the organizers, so keeping that in mind, let's postpone it. We will give you due time. We will give you due time, because once we start up with this interaction and question answer session, I'm afraid we will not be able to retain the timeline, and it would certainly snowball into questions and interactions and interjections, and then again we will not be able to do justice with reference to the speakers who have come all the way from different places, having put in a lot of effort in their presentations. So I would invite the speakers, and I would really earnestly request you people to please stick to the timeline, 4 to 5 minutes, because you need to have time for interactions at the end of the whole session. So if only you cooperate, you will get time. Otherwise, you will have to proceed on to the T session where you can have individual clarifications. But I believe that will not be advisable if we are talking about recommendation. Thank you very much for your cooperation in understanding the difficulty and taking it upon myself as an assumed implied agreement that you will adhere to your timeline. I invite Professor Dr. Paramjeet S. Jaswal and Ms. Jasdeep Kaur. She is here to present on psychological aspect of surrogacy and analytical overview. Over to you, Ms. Jasdeep.
Very good morning to respected chairperson, panelists, faculty members, participants and dear students. Today I am here to present a joint paper which is on the topic of psychosocial aspect of surrogacy and analytical overview. As the surrogacy arrangement is an agreement whereby a woman agrees that she will bear the child on the behalf of intended parents, and she also agrees that she will relinquish the custody of child after delivery. As far as the types of surrogacy is concerned, depending on whether the money is exchanged between the parties, it is commercial or altruistic surrogacy, and depending on whether the genetic material is provided, it is gestational or altruistic, the traditional surrogacy. Now there are a number of questions which are raised, a number of arguments are given by the researchers as well as the authors of different articles that surrogacy in fact depicts the negative impact that are some of the negative aspects that I have done in my paper, that is conflicting motherhood, harm to the human dignity, and it is reinforcement of the gender hierarchy. It disintegrates the family system, destroy the parent-child relationship. It is exploitative of the woman. It leads to commodification of the women as well as the child, and it amounts to baby selling. Apart from that, it has also the psychological impact both on the surrogate as well as the child. However, in my paper, I would like to sum it here that as such, even though these arguments are given in regard to negative aspects, there are positive aspects of surrogacy. Firstly, in relation to conflicting motherhood, it is already argued by many of the scholars here also that there is a conflict. Who is the real mother? Whether it is an intended mother, whether it is a surrogate, or whether it is an anonymous egg donor who is providing the genetic material. In my viewpoint, it should be the method of social parenthood, the mother who has firstly intended to have a child, that is intended mother, she should be treated as a real mother. Apart from that, it represents the reproductive and contractual freedom of the surrogate, so it cannot be as such underlined that it is harmful to the human dignity. On the other hand, if contractual freedom is not given, reproductive freedom is not given to the surrogate, it in fact would undermine the human dignity or freedom of the surrogate concern. Apart from that, it is not actually destroying the family relationship, because actual breakdown of relationship is not due to surrogacy, but it is due to the childlessness, especially in the country like India, where lady is always blamed for childlessness. Apart from that, I would like to emphasize here that there is no destruction of child-parent relationship, as all the efforts have already been made by the intended parents. Then only they have turned towards the surrogacy arrangement. So they will take care of the child as if that is a natural born child of that particular parent. Apart from that, it is not exploitative because the prospects of earning that is provided to the surrogate as far as she is paid for being serving as a surrogate, and there is she is providing. Apart from that, there is no commodification of the reproductive capacity of surrogate, because she is just providing the gestational services, and for that providing of gestational services she is paid by the intended parents. And it cannot also be treated as a baby selling, because child is not sold, but that is only delivered by the surrogate, and it is handed over to those parents who are more than willing to accept the custody of child concerned. And apart from that, there are no psychological impacts so far as the child or the surrogate is concerned. It is often argued that the psychological impact, that is negative psychological impact, so far as the surrogate is concerned, it starts from the very process of treatment which is undertaken over her, and it lasts till she is relinquishing the child. But the studies have proved that it is not so. It is not having a psychological negative impact. Rather, she from the very beginning knows that child does not belong to her, and she is not having any problem for relinquishing the custody of child. Apart from that, it has no psychological impact on the child also, because the studies also prove that the warmth and care, the same kind of warmth and care is given to the surrogate child as is given to the natural born child. So in the end, I would like to conclude that surrogacy arrangements are not having the negative impact. It is mutually advantageous agreements. On the one hand, it is providing the kind of money arrangements to the surrogate, and on the other hand, it is given the lifetime enjoy and pleasure to the parents who are being provided with the child. So need is for mandatory counseling of all the parties involved. Need is for maintaining the regulation at the national level so that there cannot be any exploitation of any of the parties involved in the agreement. And need is not to maintain the confidentiality but the transparency in order that it can be accepted by the society. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jasdeep, and very well done. I congratulate you for adhering to that timeline. Before I invite the second speaker, I would certainly like to highlight that she's talked about sort of an assumption that human dignity is there because counseling is there. There is no commodification because the surrogate is compensated for, and it is only lot of effort and counseling that is taken, and even the commissioning parents have undergone through a lot of medical procedures, and it's only at the end of the tunnel that they are trying to hope and find out some ray of hope. So, and thirdly, she is talking about psychological impact on child is not there. I wonder whether all the three issues can be assumed positively, in the sense that there is human dignity maintained, there is no commodification of the woman, and there is no exploitation, and yes, certainly there is no psychological impact on the child. I do understand that as far as the adoption of the child in the commissioning parents' family is concerned, yes, they will bestow all sorts of warmth, love, affection, etc., etc. But it's a billion-dollar question whether, having achieved adulthood in his or her adolescence, if somebody points a finger that they are not your own parents, what would be the experience of this child who is born through surrogacy? I still cannot comment on that with all the emphasis on my command that there will not be any psychological impact, because I do know on account of adoption, there have been cases wherein a child not having been informed at some point of time gets to know that he is an adopted child in the family, so that much of love, affection had been showered and bestowed on the child, but still the moment a child gets to know that, look, they are not my own in the real sense of the blood parents, there are certainly different experiences, even though I am not mentioning traumatic experiences, and it takes a lot of time for the child and the parents to come to terms with this situation and bail out of this. So I would like you people to think it over and recommend whatever you feel like at the end of it, giving justified reasons as to whether we can ward off that commodification, exploitation, etc., etc., etc. Not really further into that. The second speaker, deconstructing motherhood, Dr. Deeksha Bajpai Tiwari and Dr. Upma Gupta. I welcome you on the podium. They will be speaking on deconstructing motherhood, the role of assisted reproductive technologies. Over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The title of my paper is Deconstructing Motherhood, the Role of Assisted Reproductive Technologies. We'll be talking about surrogacy and not the other assisted reproductive technologies that are available. The paper has been written by me and Deeksha and my co-author, Dr. Upma. I teach geography at Dalhousie College, Delhi University, and the co-author teaches law. Now, when you say deconstruction, I am talking about the Edward Said's Orientalism deconstruction, where he talks about creating structures and then deconstructing it. In the sense that you create superstructures and then you deconstruct those superstructures and take out those minute details, take out those minute substructures that are created and try to place yourself into those structures. If you cannot identify those substructures, then those superstructures are of no significance whatsoever. So in that sense, I am talking about deconstructing motherhood. Since mother is not defined legally, therefore you need to, you have no other alternative but to start accepting the social construct of mother. That is the socially trusted, socially defined who the mother is. If your mother, the definition of her ideal and normative mother is the mother who cares, mother who loves, then my submission and my honest submission would be that it's a social construct. The society has told you to be a mother is the one who cares, the mother is the one who loves, and therefore on this substratum, if you put the ART technologies, what are we actually doing? We are complicating the already imbalanced equation. The imbalanced equation, because the role has been thrusted on you by the society. The society tells you what the ideal and the normative mother is. And therefore, if you in that context, if you start asking the altruistic nature and the commercial nature of surrogacy, there lies the conflict that why altruistic nature of surrogacy is still more acceptable than the commercial one. Because one that germinates out of love, one that germinates out of care is more acceptable. And if it requires clearly defined roles where money is being paid for various roles that are being performed, then it's stigmatized. Now, from where is that stigma coming? It's again coming from the society. So therefore, the deconstruction of motherhood is that the idea that the ideal normatives that are created by the society is being questioned on one level by surrogacy, one. And secondly, if you try and question the surrogacy, again the society tells you that you can be a surrogate mother, but it has to be out of love and care. If it's commercial, then there is a deviance. Deviance of what? Deviance of social norms. Because again, if you cannot define a mother, then you cannot define a motherhood. The speakers yesterday and right now, before I spoke, the question here is, who's the mother? The one who provides gestation or the social parenting? Somebody may say that the social parenting is the norm. But then this is the society which has told us sanskar to garb se aate hain. Then where are the values? What values are we talking about? If you're negating the gestational aspect and you're not giving any input on the gestational aspect, gestation is as important as probably social parenting. The idea that I want to be a mother is as important as probably the society telling you that this is what the mother is. So this idea, this gestation versus social norm, if I provide my egg, therefore I am a mother. If I provide gestation, therefore I am a mother. Or if I am the mother who commissioned someone else, therefore because I wanted to be a mother, therefore I am a mother. This is nothing but a social construction of motherhood. Because motherhood is more socially constructed rather than biological in nature. Very briefly, I would like to again go back to this deviance nature. Deviance, who's a divine mother? If the role of motherhood in a traditional reproductive cycle, the same woman would conceive, pregnancy and then deliver a child. But here what are we doing? We are actually providing roles to different women at different points in time, and therefore the roles, whether done because of whether there is a transference of money or there is no transference of money. But what are we doing? We are the structure, the superstructure of reproduction has been divided and disseminated into roles. If that is true, if that is donable, if that is acceptable, then in that case, this over-glorification of motherhood needs to be demystified. If reproductive cycle can be divided into roles, it's just a role that an X woman or a Y woman or a Z woman or a ABC woman is providing, then it's a role that is being performed. Let's accept the fact that it's a role and nothing more than a role that is being performed in the process within quotes of giving birth. So it's a process, it's a role, and your deviance and your acceptability is socially constructed. If you do it out of love and care, accept it. The society tells you that. Why is it acceptable? Because it's the social construct of motherhood. Very briefly, I would say, I'm not even touching upon the proposed ART bill. I'm not touching upon the rights of the child, the right of mother, because I'm questioning the entire idea. Who is the mother here? Who is the mother? And the premise on which the paper was written by us was that this idea of motherhood needs to be deconstructed. Let's put it, because if it is empowerment, it needs to be demystified a little. Probably we attach too much value to this social construction of motherhood. I'm not undermining the biological aspect. No, I'm not. But if motherhood is biological and only biological, and the society has nothing to do with it, it's my decision, and I am the one who's going to be attached to my child, and it's a biological nature and behavior, fine. But if the society tells me as a mother is this, mother has to be, you have to be Ma, and you can be the mother of the nation, or mother of the nature, Vasudha and Ma, then this is over-glorification. Over-glorification without empowerment is destructive, is by nature destructive and